Christopher Duane is a financial and investing expert and founder of the Sons of Liberty Academy. Chris is also a U.S. Marine, a venture capitalist, and became a self-made millionaire by the age of 30. Chris's YouTube channel, Greatest Truth Never Told, has over 3.5 million views since its debut 15 months ago. Chris believes massive changes are coming and that if you are aware and prepared, you will be able to create generational wealth. Chris became passionate about educating the youth as to the truth when he realized that he had been lied to his entire life. If he was lied to, then so is everyone else. He has appeared before Congress and on a wide variety of talk shows. Christopher Duane, welcome to the Global Freedom Report. How are you?
Very good, sir. How are you?
Doing just fine, and appreciate your joining us. You became a self-made millionaire by the age of 30. How'd you do that?
The old-fashioned way. I was born into it. My family owned 7 car dealerships in New Jersey. My father was a corporate guy, worked for General Motors for many years, had the opportunity of buying a car dealership in 1987, triple mortgaged his home, begged, borrowed, and stealed all the capital they could get to buy into the car dealership. And then, for the first, 5 or 6 years, really made no money, tremendous stress on our family. And then after the 92 recession, it was pretty much the sun never set. And, he made a ton of money. And so the first part of my life, the formative years, was really spent traveling all over the country. I lived in 15 states in 15 years. I was always the new kid in school. And by the time, he settled down and I was off to college, he started making a ton of money and ended up, working in the family business. And I did very well with it. I was brought up with a shark-like mentality, being a car dealer in New Jersey, being a Marine. I tend to have a very aggressive personality, and I could swim with the sharks the fastest. And if it wasn't for the blessing of meeting my wife, I would have continued to go down that path. And, when I met my wife, she showed me the strength of being empathetic, being caring, and that allowed me to open my eyes to a different reality. And the first question I asked was, how is it possible that I knew so many people that were making so much money, and this was right around 2005, all these millionaires were born. Why is it that, things were so good right now? And when I came to find out that, what money was, it scared me because I realized I had no clue. And that I was purposely misled, societally, educationally, even, with everything. And then I come to find out that money is actually debt. And when debt is created, money is created. And when debt is paid off, money is destroyed. And it was no wonder my family was doing very well because all car dealers do is create a ton of debt. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so once I came to that realization, I was like, well, shoot, how is this going to end? Can't continue to print debt forever. That made me start to reevaluate what I was doing, what my finances were, and the first thing I did was sell my house at the top of the housing bubble, contrary to what everybody was telling me to do. And I did this with a 7.5-month pregnant wife with our first child, because I realized that you can't continue to expand debt forever without having some sort of blowback. And at the time, it was the housing bubble, and it was very easy to see that ending. And as I've gone along in my educational experience, I started to see that, well, if the housing bubble ended and the stock market bubbles go, and, what's the biggest bubble? And the biggest bubble is debt. And it's global, systemic. Every country, every person, every corporation, every organization, everywhere, all over the world is broke. And they're all in debt. And then when you understand that all money is debt, all this money is owed to somebody, and that's one of the questions we got to ask Congress, and unfortunately nobody answered it. But the answer is there's private people who own the world's central banks, and we are all enslaved to them. And they own the educational process, the corporations, the politicians, the military, and ultimately us. We empower them every debt that we take out. And so I think that the solutions are to eventually walk away from everything that doesn't resonate with you. And it takes a lot of education and a lot of thought to start wrapping your mind around this. But it can be done, and I think it needs to be done now for people to get out ahead of time before this collapse happens.
There's no doubt the elite have plans, that they have ideas on how they're going to continue to manipulate the world, but at the end of the day, they're not going to go from mountaintop to mountaintop. Any elite that's ever ruled the paradigm, and their paradigm ends up falling because of either too much debt or too much war, or people just lose legitimacy. These guys are going to suffer tremendously, and they're going to be running for their lives ahead of pitchforks and torches after the world's dollar collapses. And all these plans that they have, Agenda 21, and UN gun control, and all that other stuff is going to go right out the window. When the collapse comes, it's not going to lead to a new world order. It's going to lead to massive decentralization of power, where power is going to devolve down to the most local and responsive level. And if that level is, the Crips and Bloods in L.A. or Mayor Bloomberg in New York, or just a couple neighbors in the neighborhood, that's where it's going to go to. And people are going to have to start taking responsibility for their actions and prepare for that.
Chris, what is the Sons of Liberty Academy, and what inspired you to found it?
Well, when I went through that awakening process, there's 5 stages that we're all going to go through. The first stage is denial. That's where most of humanity is right now. They're living in denial because they've never been brought face-to-face with the consequences of actively or passively supporting this debt and death paradigm, because that's all our paradigm's about, spreading debt and death throughout the world. That's why we do so well. But it's going to come to an end. And when people come face-to-face with that reality, they're going to become mad, and the anger phase starts. And that's going to probably last 3 to 5 years. It's going to be massive nastiness all over the place. Stay out of urban areas if you can. I don't care what country you're in. Then eventually bargaining happens, and for individuals going through the bargaining stage, that's usually the most annoying period to know somebody who's being awakened, because they start ruining Christmas parties, talking about 9/11 and the Federal Reserve, and basically being a complete annoyance to those that are in denial and don't want to listen. And after you've burned through all your relationships and everybody that you know, and no one seems to care, and the problem seems so big, you slip into depression, and that's where the majority of the people that are in the truth movement are. They just feel that this is too big, too bad, too sad, I can't do anything about it. And it's not until you start focusing your energies away from things that you cannot control, both bad guys that you fear, the Clintons, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, Kissinger, all these guys, and stop hoping for somebody to come to save you, the Alex Jones and the Ron Pauls and whoever else is the gurus out there, and start focusing on yourself. You start to become empowered, and that's the way out. You have to become taking responsibility for yourself. Take your wealth out of the paradigm, start putting into real tangible assets, whether it's food, bullets, or silver, and then you can start preparing yourself to become a blessing unto others for the people who could not or would not wake up. And the process that I did with the Sons of Liberty Academy, I took everything that I ever learned, put it into a 48-hour video lesson, and I gave it away for free. It was my life's work, and I gave it away for free, and I'm now in the process of putting that all on YouTube. And I hope that it serves as a way of helping people speed through those 5 stages.
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen some of your work, which is why I wanted to bring you on the show, because I like your philosophical approach to what's going on around us. I think it's very important. But I want to touch on I have a few questions for you concerning your experience as a Marine and how that impacts what you do. You're a U.S. Marine. I would say a veteran, but I understand once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah.
When did you serve? And then how has your experience with the Marines influenced your work with the Sons of Liberty Academy?
Well, I joined after I graduated Boston College. Not too many people joined the Marine Corps after college. Not too many of them then go into infantry, which is what I did. And I joined in 96, and I served all the way into 2003. And I could sum up my experience with the Marines by saying I love the men and I hate the machine. The men that end up serving are really well-intentioned people who think that they're doing the best for their country, but the reality is all we're doing is we're the goons, the gangsters, the muscle men for the banks and the oil contracts and everything else out there. So I would, I liked my experience with Marines. The reality is that we're empowering those that would seek to impoverish and enslave our families.
Now, that raises a question. As a Marine, you swore an oath to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution for the United States. Mm-hmm. Did you ever have trouble reconciling the orders you were given with your oath to uphold the Constitution?
No, because I wasn't in any combat situations. So everything that we did, and to give a lot of credit to the leaders inside of our platoon, we had an excellent group of officers and NCOs, and I was one of the NCOs. We were firmly entrenched and knew what it was, and there was a lot of talk about unlawful orders. They probably went over that quite often. I don't know if all the military does that as frequently as we did, but we had a really, really good group of guys, and I never felt morally ambiguous doing everything that we did.
Well, it's obvious now with your work at Sons of Liberty that you're more aware of what's really going on out there. What do you believe that active service members should do in today's military regarding orders to do unconstitutional acts? Aren't they supposed to disobey?
Yeah. I think that the kind of groupthink that they indoctrinate you in, number one, I think people should consciously object. They should be walking away from their service. And I've had a lot of people, I've had a lot of influence on not only the military, but law officers, military contractors, of people who just, once you learn what your role is, and Henry Kissinger best put it, said that military men are dumb, stupid animals to be used as foreign pawns. Once you realize that what your role is, you can no longer deny what you're doing, and people simply cannot serve anymore. And I know of two of my members who have gone through the conscientious objector status and have gotten out. It's a process, but it's one that you should be doing. And number two, young men, do not join. You're committing your life to a collective that care less about you.
Do you know whether or not enlisted personnel these days are sufficiently educated to understand they have a duty to disobey unconstitutional orders?
Yeah. At least in my experience, my group certainly had, Brendan Raub, who was a member of our group, who was recently arrested for his Facebook posts, was a contributor to my website. He certainly feels this way, and when I was in, I wanted to go kill everybody. I hated Muslims. I wanted to kill the terrorists, and when I got out, I started to realize that, wow, that was a big lie to get me and my fellow men to go out and put our lives at risk and do do unspeakable things to other people who have not done anything to us. I think the word is spreading, and that's one of the things that gives me the most hope. Once people wake up to this reality, they can never be fooled again. And this is going to spread one person at a time throughout all of humanity until all of humanity finally comes to the conscious conclusion, and I don't think it's going to happen until after the dollar collapse, that we cannot go along living life this way anymore. I mean, for 6,000 years, there's been one group of psychopaths collectivizing power, spreading debt and death throughout the world, and then eventually another group of psychopaths get in charge, and they create this path. And I don't think humanity needs to do that anymore. We have, the education, information, and the awareness now to live a much better life.
Yeah, and one more question for you as a Marine. There is a mountain of evidence that Barack Obama is not constitutionally qualified to be president of the United States since he's not a natural-born citizen. This means he is not legitimately the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Doesn't that mean that all troops from all of the armed forces should disobey all orders that directly or indirectly come from him?
Yeah, but I mean, the whole system's immoral. I mean, the whole banking system, I don't care if Romney or whoever gets in office, nothing changes. They kind of get wrapped around the world thinking about, Clinton, but the reality is Bush was no different than, Obama, and Obama's no different than Clinton, and they're all the same. That's the problem. We keep emotionalizing individuals, not looking at the bigger problem, because
all the Democrats looked at Bush and go, "Oh my God, how can you vote for this war criminal and the wars and Guantanamo?" And you know what happened? Obama gets in and continues the exact same policies, and wars keep the exact same people in power. So if you're going to disobey for the entire system, not just because of one guy being the president and whatever his records are or not. It really doesn't matter.